UDL, Universal Design for Learning, the concept of designing your courses, your content, and your activities with all learners' needs in mind. So what is Universal Design for Learning, UDL for short? It's a framework developed by CAST, an understood founding partner. UDL guides the design of learning experiences to proactively meet the needs of all learners. When you look at UDL, you're going to think about what the barriers are for every student and design activities that have choice in mind, that have evidence-based practices, and using the digital technology in order to support all learners exactly where they are. This may include such things as speech to text or text to speech. It includes ideas such as how can a student show what they know? Does it need to always be pencil and paper? There are three main principles of UDL. The first, engagement, the second, representation, and the third, action and expression. The first principle, engagement, is really asking yourself this primary question: how can I engage all students in my class? When you do this, you're looking at how do I make this content relevant to my students? How can I ensure that my classroom is a place of acceptance and supportive to all student needs? And how can I determine ways to give students a voice in what they're learning? Some suggestions for how to keep these principles as a core component of your planning is using surveys to determine student strengths, needs, and their interests, providing lots of choices, and stating those objectives very clearly, both to your students but also to yourself. And that is why with UDL, we always start with the end in mind. The second principle is representation. With this principle, you're really asking yourself, how can I present information in a way that will reach every one of my learners in my classroom? So these big ideas are, how can I have different ways to present the same content? And how can I provide extra support to learners when they're engaging in text or auditory information? Some suggestions for how you can do this is to use tools and make them available to all learners. Tools such as speech to text, text to speech, background colors, changes of text and font. Making sure that all learners have access to all of these tools. So if we have a dictionary tool, then that can also be translated to other languages, then you've ensured that all students have the ability to define a word, understand a word, and translate that word to their native language. By just adding that dictionary, you've provided access to every one of your students' language needs. Finally, the last principle, action and expression. And the big question here is how can I offer purposeful options for students to show what they know? It is really important that you are clear on what it is that students need to learn. Some big ideas you can consider is, am I flexible on timing and pacing of my instruction? Have I considered options outside of their traditional pencil and paper to show mastery? And am I providing assistive technology supports and making them available to everyone? Suggestions that are easily incorporated are providing organizational supports and extended time. Simply recording information and allowing consistent access both at home and school can provide students with the opportunity to hear the information multiple times or to use the information multiple times. Providing options such as presentations, oral reports, posters, graphic organizers. The sky is the limit for how you can creatively ask your students to show mastery. When we remember consistently what the core goal is, it is much easier to give students options to show that they've learned that core skill. And when we provide all students with common assistive technology, we are providing every student with the option. These assistive technology tools that are accessible on every single device in our district should not only be used for students that have identified disabilities. So as I've mentioned, the most important concept and change that we're asking teachers to make when they consider planning with universal design for learning in mind is to start at the end. The big question that must be in your head from the very start of planning is, what are the core content? What are the big essential skills that students need to understand? So instead of making an assignment for history, if it's perhaps a civics assignment, to write a 6-page essay about it, perhaps that can be one option for the students who love to write. But maybe that group of students can also show those principles through a presentation, a Powtoons presentation perhaps. Maybe they can show it by putting on a performance for their friends or by instructing another student in it. When we think from the end in mind, when we plan with our core goals already stated, we become much more flexible in the way students get there. So we're going to begin planning by discussing what do students need to know. We're going to go back to those core content standards to remember what the essential skills are. And then we're going to back map and determine all the various ways that students can get there.